first gear, baby. You ready? Ready. What's going on, everybody? Appreciate y'all tuning the channel today here at 323 Fabrication. More junk to work on. So what we got going on in this video, this really cool Cummins swap rat rod truck tractor deal we got going on here. So this is a 93 Cummins chassis. It's got a 12 valve in it with an automatic. It's a 40 Chevy cab, and we have a set of 40 something Dodge fenders and grill. Should be really cool, but currently it's got a 410 14 bolt GM rear end with an open diff, and that's just not gonna do because one tire burnouts are lame. It did sort of a burnout, and then it did both, and then it did one, and I pulled the cover to make sure, and it is definitely an open diff. But what is not an open diff is this 96 behind me right here. This has got a Dana 80, I believe. It's got a cool cover on it. I know it's a POSI, and I know it's a 410 from the factory. Now, if the gears have been changed, I don't know. I know it runs like a scalded dog, which the motor's turned up. It's got a built automatic in it. This motor and trans is going in a 1960 pink Cadillac. So we don't need this rear end. We don't need this chassis. But we are going to steal the rear end from this truck to go in the other hot rod we're building now that we haven't had for very long. But it was just, a buddy of mine had it. Wasn't going to do nothing with it. Got it at a good price. You know me, I like junk. So let's get started. We're gonna snatch this rear end out and swap them out. All right, y'all, a little progress. So 8mm socket, pulled the straps and the bolts out, snatched the, snatch the drive shaft off. 13/16 wrench and socket, 13/16 on the U-bolts. I left one U-bolt on each side. And now what I got to do, look at that thing. It's a big old rear end. I believe it's a Dana 80. So what I'm gonna do now, I got to come over here, get the brake rubber line took loose right here, and unplug whatever this deal is. Well, just kidding, it's broke. So there's our vent. So get that, took a loose right there. Keep it with the rear end. I'm gonna take these parking brake cables apart up here. I do believe is the way I want to do it. There's a couple in there. Yes, I'll take it here and take all this with me. Except that, because I got to get to the bolts on that. So I'll probably just take it loose here and slide all this out and just take this with the rear end. That bracket there too, just in case, because I don't know. You know, they put that 14 bolt GM in that other truck. I'm pretty sure it didn't come that way because the leaf spring perches have been added to it. Let's go look, I'll show you. But not too bad, coming apart real easy with electric dewalled impacts, surprisingly. And the reason we're not changing the leaf packs is the leaf springs on this truck are shorter. But you can see, there was the perch, and there's the one now. But I measured it, and these springs are the same location as the springs on the other truck. They're just shorter, so there we go. I don't know, we might, now we'll just leave them leaves the way they are, but we are waiting. We got a set of drop shackles coming in. There we go. Fancy. Mag high tech. I guess that's our vent. No, our vent's over here. I don't know what this is.
I don't either.
It's got a dirt dabbler built into it.
I thought it was a vent at first.
I think this is our speedo sensor. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I don't know. There we go, it's out. That's a big booger there. Let's see here, see if y'all can tell. That's a big old rear end. Ain't it? Ain't it? Yeah. You think so? Okay, we're down to 3 U-bolts. We only got one off with the impact. I had to break all of them loose. We got 2 extra stands under the truck, so I was moving the truck on the lift with a big pull handle and a jack handle. So I'm gonna heat the nuts up, try to get them off, but they're tough. Impact won't do them. Okay, I ran the Lowe's and the parts house yesterday. Didn't have the U-bolts I needed, so I'm about to order these because we broke one already. But I got these 2 fittings, and that makes our temp gauge work, so I'll get that installed again. But it's a 3/4 is the size on the head, which is pretty good size. Well, fought us all the way to the end. Let's see. I got to get that out of there. Forgot about them. But it's a loose. Wow. I am whooped. Probably a 2 foot or so pull handle, 1/4 turn at a time. 2 nuts on this side the whole way off. But it's off. Just gotta get them parking brakes cables out of there and we'll be good to go. Voila!
Do you plan to put that back in the other truck?
I do. Oh, wow. Pretty sure the truck's a little nose heavy.
Yeah, I think it is too.
There's a gap on the... Yeah, it's only sitting on the front of the lift post. That's okay. It ain't fell yet, so. Alright, y'all, rolled this other big Dana over here and ratchet strapped it because we had an inch gap between the back lift post and the frame, just to kind of put some weight back on the back of the lift. I'm gonna clean some of this up while the rear end's not in the way. I got to clean the threads up on all these anyway. But I'm gonna clean some of the frame up. But that gives us a little bit of an anchor point, and then I am gonna stick this one back in this truck over here, just to make it easier to deal with. And we are gonna pull the motor and trans out of this truck. I just don't know quite yet when, because I don't really have anywhere to put it. That's a bunch of motor and transmission to be sitting in here on the floor.
In the way.
All right, I wire wheeled these, wire wheeled the threads on that one. I'm gonna get the tap and die set out and run the die down all these. I'm gonna put this one back on there just because that'll keep the rear end where it needs to be. And I'll order some next week, and then they'll come in. I'll replace this one. These all seem to be in pretty good shape. I am gonna put a coat of paint on them after I run a die down the threads. And then the bottom plates I already wire wheeled. You can see it makes a mess, but I'm finna put a coat of paint on them. Let them be drying. Got them sitting out here. Get a coat of paint on them. Alright, Dad's painting, priming, rusty metal Rust-Oleum primer. I wire wheeled the frame section and the leaf springs and everything. And while the rear end's out and it's easier to get to, we're going to paint what we can reach easily, and then we'll stick the rear end back in it. We will go back gloss black. I'm up here draining the radiator, making a mess again. And I'm going to pull the temp sensor back out and get this cool Stuart Warner hook back up. Teflon taped everything. It's 3 fittings. Boom, boom, boom. So that's what I'm finna do. Pull this joker out the back of the head. Hopefully we'll have coolant temp after that. All right, if you can dig it, there's our stacked adapters in there. Got a temp gauge now. Got it all zip tied up. Of course, all this stuff's gonna go in the cab, y'all. Eventually, oil pressure, same thing. But the idea is to be able to watch the motor, you know, while we mess around with it. But those are the most important: water temp and oil pressure. And I think it's gonna be a good truck. I'll eventually start, you know, cutting out and cleaning up all this harness jazz that I don't know what it does. But for now, there we go. I'll pull the hitch off of it so Dad can keep painting, get it out the way. We're gonna swap it for the hitch on the 96 outside because it's got a fold down ball. Our internal voltage regulator deal has showed up from China's on. Some constructions I'm pretty excited to see because I wasn't sure. You know, sometimes this stuff shows up and it's just the piece. So I'm gonna pull the alternator off the truck, bring it over here, and we're gonna hook it up. Need a 12 mil to get that, holds that cover on there off. And then it's an 8 mil for these other 3 bolts here, or nuts, I mean. These studs, and the back shell comes off. Just take a flat screwdriver and work your way around it. This is our deal. Looks to me like it mounts there, uses that screw, which is also a ground, and then red connects there. So red here, black's the ground, which is also where it mounts according to the diagram. And then you got to snake these 2 wires out, and then they'll connect here, and then you reinstall it, and it just self-regulates the alternator. So we'll see. Alright, well, in case you can't tell how this is going, that screw needs to come out. So now we're gonna steal the alternator off the other truck, and this can be a problem for future us. I'll put it back together and just throw it in the floor. Well, technically the other truck should self-regulate, so we'll swap alternators. Maybe that won't be a problem then, but it will once we Cadillac or come and swap the caddy. So, oh well. All right, this is the alternator off of the 96. It's a little different. It's got this right here, slides on that. And then it had one little extra bolt in it, and that's, I guess, just a ground for this back shell. Now I'll take my screwdriver. There's these little spots here. You can kind of work your way around, get it wiggled loose. There we go. Now the inside looks the same, but we don't have rusty screws. So hopefully this one will be a little bit easier to deal with. That other truck had sat outside a while, but this screw right here is where the hot goes, and then this is our ground slash mount. Got a little deal here. Get it on there. All right, that's what we were shooting for the first time. I did put a lot of pressure on that screw trying to get it out. It was kind of snug. That's what we needed. Got our hot there, our ground there. Let's just through there into the case. And then these 2 have to come out of this cover, probably somewhere about there, and then back up to here. All right, if y'all will look, so there's this little dimp out here, but right to the right of that, there's a spot in the actual case that's got a slot in it. And so we're seated all the way down. Got our wires run to where they got to go. And I guess it's just gonna pick up with the factory wiring over that. But there we go. Get these nuts back on and get our mount back on for the hot. We should be able to put this back in the truck. Boom, there we go. That'll do it. Okay, so what they're talking about here is that the ignition hot field terminal. So when you turn the key on, the hot wire needs to be this one. That's the one the orange is on. And so it's either green or blue. And I don't know which one of these is which, but I will ohm them out with a voltmeter. But in our case, it's a little different because, see, this is my hot ignition wire here. It's not hooked to nothing. And then I can plug it to either green or blue, whichever one I prefer. So what I'll do is I'll ohm this out and figure out which one of these is green, or which color this terminal itself is, and then we'll be good to go. And that's the one I'll wire it to. On a factory truck, you would have to, I guess, turn the key on and, you know, without this being installed, and check which one of these is hot 12. All right, filling the radiator up. Probably pretty close to full. My fittings aren't any good. They're leaking. So that was $14 down the drain. But figure something else out. But I want to see if the alternator's charging, so we're gonna fire it up. It's in park, drive shafts just hanging out, but that shouldn't be an issue. Climb up here. You ready?
Yeah.
What you got? It's almost 14. That's good. It means we got a charging system. That should be all right then, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you, worker.
yep. Got a charging system. Just ain't gonna have a temp gauge that's gonna leak. This truck is awesome. All right. Well, we have a charging system and we have a coolant leak again. So look at there. 12.8. It was 12.4 when I hooked it up. So that's good. I'm glad. That's awesome. Check it out, y'all. Dad's got that section painted black already. That way I can go ahead and get the rear end hung in it. Get the truck where it's back mobile. That's a big old rear end. And it just is balanced enough. We got a gap on both back ones, but I got some blocks and them ramps up there. But you can move the whole truck one finger. Pretty wild. Change of plans, y'all. Gonna go ahead and paint the rear end. I've been convinced. Might as well. Ah! Woo! That about came off. That would have folded them legs up. That's a lot of weight. Alright, put this phone down, pay attention. Well, there's a little bit of stuff on there. This is a fancy rear end cover. It's got a dipstick through the fill plug. It's got another plug up there. It's got a plug right there. And of course, it's got a drain plug. Got a fit in gasket. And that thing has got a big old ring gear. Yes, sir. That's a big one. 46 by 13. Let's do some math. Well, that would be 46 on the ring. Wait, is that a 3? Yeah, it is a 3. So 46, 13 is a 354. Which means somebody's been in it before. I guess that's why the aftermarket cover's on it. But I do know it's a locker because it did killer burnouts in the other truck. A little disappointing. I'd rather have a 410, but I also would rather have a locker and a 355 than an open diff with a 410. So we'll service it and all that jazz, get it painted up, get it in there. This is a lot stouter rear end. This is a Dana 80 versus a 14 bolt. But it's all good. Looks to be in pretty good shape. I'm guessing whenever they put the cover on, they maybe down geared the truck a little bit or something. Because according to the factory sticker off the truck, it was a 410 with the POSI. Had to back the adjuster off on this side and pull this drum to get it to turn. It was kind of hanging. It was either adjusted too tight or something, but you can see a little crusty in there. It's been sitting a while. We've had the truck a few years and it's just been sitting around. But it is a POSI. It's turning forward. It's turning forward. And those pieces that came out of off the magnet, I don't know what they're from, but they the ring gear and the pinion gear, from what I can see, look good. Got that thing sprayed. I think it looks good. Came back and wiped all my ribs off and wiped the faceplate off. Once it dries real good, I'll take some Scotch-Brite and clean it up. As you can see, there's still a little overspray on there. Man, that thing's gonna be awesome up under the back of the truck. Now I'm gonna start priming this. Check this out. Rode down to Florida the other afternoon to get some parts for the Chevy 2, and this guy had this old wheel. He said it was out of a Chevelle. It turns out it's a vintage Baby Moon. So all the spokes look crusty like that. And the old Magic 409 steel wool looking good. Got to get all the overspray off the wood still, but man, that's gonna be awesome. I think we'll throw it in the Dodge. There it is, y'all, cleaned up. Good as it's gonna get. Tried to be easy on the wood and get all the overspray off without damaging the finish. How cool is that? But I was thinking in this truck, but it's got power steering. This truck won't have power steering. This is a pretty good size wheel, and we don't have a steering wheel for Old Blue, so that'd be pretty killer in there. I'm just stoked it cleaned up as good as it did. Man, can y'all dig it? Dad got this housing painted up, finished it up today while I was at work. Or actually, I think he finished that yesterday. He finished the back half of the frame today. Looks good. I'm gonna get the cover on this thing, get it full of oil. We're gonna start putting the rear end back in it. Now here's the predicament that we have run into. So the axle tube on this Dana 80 is bigger than the tube on that 14 bolt that was in the truck, and that's something I should have measured. I knew the leaf springs themselves were physically wider this direction, but I didn't even think about the fact that the tube diameter was going to be different. So we're going to have to clean these up now, use these perch, or I guess axle straps, whatever you call them, clean these U-bolts up. So we won't get it dialed in today, but it's in the truck. So, and then the fact that these leaf springs are narrower, I'm not sure how that's gonna work out either, but we're gonna make it happen. I'm not scared. And then drive shaft is bottomed out in the trans, so not sure what we're gonna do there either. Probably gonna have to shorten the drive shaft, but it's okay. It's a fun part of hot rodding, but that rear end looks so good in there. Got the other set of U-bolts cleaned up, wire wheeled and painted. Same thing with the bottom mounts. And the shock setup's different on this rear end. It was on the front side over here, and then it was on the back over there. But I like this angle setup that was stock on this chassis. So I'm probably gonna cut some stud mounts off of something, maybe the pads off the other rear end, or either go out there to one of them wrecked frames and cut a set off, and just once I get everything squared up, centered, mounted in the truck, I'll clean one of these ears up and weld it on there, and that'll be my shock mount. But we'll get it in there tomorrow. Well, I ended up having to run to O'Reilly's this morning, turns out, and the leaf pack on this frame was quite a bit thicker, so the U-bolts that we had wouldn't work. So I ran to O'Reilly's. I got these super long ones. There's the kit. Obviously we're gonna cut them off, but I'm just getting them on there and kind of snugged up with a ratchet wrench, and then I'll pick the truck up, cut them off, and then tighten them up real good with a socket, deep well socket. You know, probably leave about 1 inch of threads on them just for GP. But I'm gonna get this other side started, and then I guess we're gonna have to pull the drive shaft out of the truck and cut a little bit off of it, maybe about 1 inch or so. Temporary tail lights till we get a bed, because I'll probably do a plate across the back with some flush mount LEDs. Got our U-bolts snugged up and cut off on the bottom. I took and straightened this bracket out off the other truck, drilled a hole here and mounted it, so that's where our line comes out of there, comes back to here, whatever this deal is. I got to replace this line because somebody mushed it flat with some vice grips, which is probably why the truck doesn't stop good. And then this is our proportioning valve. This line comes out of the proportioning valve. So I got to remake 2 lines real quick, both of them pretty short. And then I got the parking brake stuff all mounted back on the rear end and on the truck like it's supposed to be. So it's looking good. Now we just got some more painting to do. I got to shorten the drive shaft. I got to build shock mounts. But I'm gonna get these brake lines done, then I'm gonna start on the drive shaft. Shocks will be last. This is the line that came off of it. You can see it's kind of wonky. See where it's been mashed flat. So what I like to do when I build brake lines is I take 1/8 inch aluminum TIG wire, put all my fittings in. Same thing up under there, which you can't really see. And then I bend my template. And obviously brake line bends aren't gonna be that tight, but it gives you a really good starting point. And then I try to lay them out where they look good. And then I make them. I reused a piece I had in here that had a flare on it already because it was long enough. And it's on the truck, I'll show you in a minute, but I'm gonna show you how I do this. So I buy coil tubing. I built my own tubing straightener because they're expensive. And then I have this K-tool awesome brake flaring tool, and I think pretty much just about any supplier carries their version of this. I saw this on Mike Finnegan's YouTube channel, and after having to redo, because I had hand flared everything on the Chevy 2 the first time, I turned around and bought this, and it's some of the best money I've ever spent on a tool. But you get the right set of dies in there. This is 3/16. You set it there, that sets your depth. It's just flush. I'm going 3/16 position 1. Boom, till it stops. 3/16 quarter position 2. Boom, till it stops. All right, now I set mine back to 0 because I know it's where I got to be for the next flare, which we've only got a couple of flares to do, which I got to bend this one still. So here's our tube. There's our fitting. Don't think it gets any better than that at home. There you go. So now I'll bend this to my template. We'll get it in the truck. There we go. Like I said, I reused this one, so it's got a couple of little not perfects in it, but it had a flare on one end. I changed the fittings and then flared that in. I figured I'd reuse it since I had saved it. And then that's our other one. Goes down in there. But turned out good. Much better than it was. Now we'll just have to bleed them. You know, that extra 20 minutes worth of work right there is well worth it. Go ahead and drain it. That way when I pull the drive shaft out to cut it, it doesn't leak. Plus I need to figure out why it's leaking still. I'm guessing it doesn't like this rubber gasket. And then I'm thinking maybe around the fill plug, but we've had leak there and there. But I'm gonna get a light and check it out a little better. Dad's doing some more painting back there, but I'm gonna do some measuring and we're gonna snatch this drive shaft out because it's bottomed out in the transmission. And cut a couple of inches off of it. Normally I'd prefer to cut the other end of the drive shaft, but that end's got the balance weight on it. We're cutting 2.5 inches off of it. So I've taken and drawn me a center line on these and then double punched here, double punched outside of where the weld will be, and then singled the other side. That way I know which side's which. Get it back in the same way. And then see, it sets flat here on this table, setting on these pieces of the yoke, or the whatever it's called. So I'll get that flat again. But what I'm gonna do is take my grinder, knock the weld down, and then run the grinding wheel through it till I can get the crack all the way around it. And then I'll knock this out, clean it up, put a pipe wrap on this, cut my 2.5 inches off of it. Should be fairly simple. Can you dig it? So I just grind the weld down and then I start following around where I think it is. Get it kind of thin, and then I'll start tapping on it till I get a crack, and then I'll chase the crack all the way around and then get it where I can see that, and then I'll start tapping on it. It comes out. Now I'm gonna get a measurement off this, 2.5 inches, run a pipe wrap around it, cut it off with a cutting wheel, clean it up, and then clean that up a little more. We'll get it tacked, fit it in the truck. And I'm not sure if I'm gonna go ahead and weld it up or not, because I'm a little worried about when we do the drop shackles, it'll lower the truck 2 inches in the back. So I don't know. I don't think it'll make enough of a difference for the drive shaft. That's why I added the extra 1/2 inch. I was just gonna do 2 inches. We'll see. So my thoughts on this. This is where it's been riding. This is where it rode with whatever original rear end it was in the truck. I kind of split the difference, and then when we lower it, it should go a little more. But 2.5 inches off the shaft, cleaned it up, knocked it back in, got it square, got my double dot mounted with my double dot, and then we're setting on a 1/2 inch piece of steel. It's almost perfect, barely any wobble, which could be tape or something on that end. But here we go. I'm gonna MIG weld this back up and throw it in the truck. Well, it's one piece again. I quartered it, And after I tacked it, I quartered it, and then I beveled my tie-ins back down. It's MIG welded. Should be sufficient. Guess we'll find out. Slight problem. Joint on this is significantly smaller than what's on this Dana 80. But the length of the drive shaft's pretty good. When we lower it, it's gonna get a little bit shorter, but that yoke's pretty long. So I got to figure out how to get a conversion joint. Ran to O'Reilly's, took this joint with me. The long side fit the rear end and the drive shaft. This side is what fit the 14 bolt that was in it. Went and got a factory joint for a 96. That's the number, precision, Chinese made, is greasable. I'm gonna grease it. And it come with this style of clips, but got it installed. It's in the truck. We now have a drive shaft again, which is fantastic. I just gotta grease it. There's my joint. Worked out good. Hopefully it'll take some abuse. And then I'm gonna grease this one too while I'm at it. It's also greasable. And I wish I had thought about it while I was there and got an output shaft seal. But that's easy enough. I'll Amazon one because it'll be cheaper. But that's what we got now. It stuck out about another inch more than this with the other rear end. Only about half the yoke was in it. And transmission output shaft sticks out about a ½ inch past this seal. So it's engaged to about there now. But that yoke's about that long. And then once we lower the truck, I'm hoping it'll take up about half of this, which would be sweet. Rear brakes are bled. Battery box is reinstalled on the outside of the frame. That way, once there's a bed on it, we'll still be able to get to it. Rerouted that stuff. We've got a drive shaft. It's full of transmission fluid and full of coolant. So I think we're gonna fire it up. Actually, I think I want to put the windshield on first. Cut down on my inhalation. Okay, new plan. I had this 4-foot stick of 3-inch mild steel that's expanded on the end for building exhaust kits. So I just added that, and that'll get the smoke out of my face. Because if I put the windshield on it, I'm gonna take the windshield right back off of it when the new gasket shows up for it. So let's fire this dude up. Pretty high, you know. Alright, we're gonna try to adjust the idle on it, but it runs again. Okay, what we did, there's an adjustment screw on the back side. I loosened it up, backed it off, then I had to adjust this rod to get it to idle where I wanted it. I ran out of rod here, it was just falling out, so I cut it in half and extended it maybe 1 inch. Might have been too much because currently it is basically bottomed out in those, but it's fine, it should work. I'm gonna fire it up and adjust it and see where we're at. Alright, the truck is much happier. Going in and out of gear. Temp's coming up. Fuel pressure is good. We ain't got any lights, so we're gonna have to be extra careful. need to breathe the brakes some more. Pedal that keeps going away. I gotta look at that. Brake pedal keeps disappearing, so let's see if we can figure out why. What do you think? You getting them old tires on the test drive? Well, truck moves under its own power again. We have a temp gauge that works and it's not leaking. And I had that other fitting the whole time. So, well, no, I did need one of them, I think. Yeah, I needed that one. I bought that one. That one we already had. So half of that $14 was a waste, but it's all good. Temp gauge works. Oil pressure gauge works. Boost gauge does work. It made, I don't know, it's creeping up on like 5 pounds when it turned the tire. One tire, right? That's an issue. Got to figure out why. But it's all good. I know that one for sure has a locker because it did a big 4-tire burnout here one time with the truck it was in when I first brought it home. So we got a few bugs worked out. Got the rear end swapped, and that was a big thing. You know, got a drive shaft in it. It's shortened. I need to, I guess, address the trans a little and figure out, because it seems to me like it should shift and it's only staying in first. So I'm gonna do some looking into that. But rear end looks fantastic. Back half of the frame is painted. So I'm gonna pull the front wheels and tires in the next video. We're gonna cut the springs and continue to make some progress on this cool old truck. And I'm gonna do some research on why we don't have a POSI. Oh, I still have to make shock mounts, but that can be in the other video. This thing's pretty cool. Definitely better to drive with the extension on there. That was, that thing fills the cab up with black smoke. But, pretty sweet old truck. Hope y'all have enjoyed the video. We're making a little progress on this thing. It's gonna be cool for sure. Really can't wait to get the front end on it. That's totally gonna change the truck. And then eventually I'll get some wheel adapters and I'll put my big billet wheels on here off my other Dodge. Got to buy some tires for the factory wheels on that truck though, so it might be a little while. But other than that, I mean, this thing's running and driving again. We'll make a little more progress next video. Appreciate y'all tuning in. God bless you.